Welcome to Terrain of Thought. This is the first video in my series on Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay, Nature. And before I begin reading, I just want to take a few moments to introduce both the text and the spirit of the series. This channel is a space for reflection, reading, discussion about nature, landscape, language, and the ideas that shape how we understand the world around us. Some of the videos that will be posted on this channel will be readings from public domain texts, and other will be more open conversations or discussions about writers, movements, landscapes, and questions that seem worth thinking through carefully. Today, I'm beginning the introduction to Emerson's Nature, first published in 1836. Nature is an extended philosophical essay, and it became one of the foundational works of American Transcendentalism. Emerson is one of the central figures of that movement, along with writers like Thoreau. And one of the reasons he still matters is that he helped articulate a way of thinking about nature, not just as scenery, backdrop, or resource, but as something intellectually, morally, and spiritually significant. That is why I'm choosing to start here. Nature sits very close to many of the concerns of this channel: perception, language, meaning, the natural world, and the relationship between inner life and outer landscape. This channel is not concerned with just what nature is, but what happens when we attend to nature. It asks what nature gives to thought and to feeling, and what it might reveal about our presence standing in relation to nature. This reading is found from text available on public domain, so this text can be openly read and discussed on this platform. My plan for this series is to move through nature gradually, section by section, rather than going through all the sections at once. There are 8 sections to the essay, and after this opening introduction, it continues through the sections of nature, commodity, beauty, language, discipline, idealism, spirit, and prospects. And I'll be reading each of those in separate videos so that the language, the ideas, have room to register and unfold. And that pace matters to me, and it is done on purpose. I would rather go through each piece slowly enough to experience the writing rather than to move quickly past it. And I just want to be really clear about another thing about this channel. This channel is very much a learning space, and part of my interest in doing this channel is to bring intellectual conversations to the general public without the veil of academia or the fear of learning or the fear of making a mistake, inhibiting you or myself from delving into historical pieces of literature or movements. So I'm learning, and if I pause over a word or mispronounce something or need to read a sentence again, that is part of the process. Emerson's prose can be beautiful, but it can also be archaic, elevated, dense, and complex. So part of the value of reading a work like this in pieces is that it allows me to dissect each piece slowly, listen carefully, and stay with the language and the ideas a little longer than I would normally. If I come across a word that seems especially important or difficult, or I have trouble pronouncing it, or I don't know what it means, I will define it in the comments or the description. And I will also be leaving questions on every video in the comments and in the video that are open for reflection, because I want this to be a place for engagement, for deeper thinking and discussion, if that's something that viewers are interested in and comfortable with. And of course, I'd love to hear your own questions as well, or comments, or feedback. I'm also interested in starting with Emerson because personally, it's one of my favorite writers, and because this channel is not just concerned with literature, but also with the larger field of ideas around nature, landscape, and thought. So even though Emerson was not a landscape architect, his text, Nature, still matters to anyone interested in landscape or nature, because it helped shape the view with which many Americans later thought about scenery and public beauty, the natural world, the built world, and the relationship between human beings and the land. So this series is not just about reading Emerson as a historical figure. It's also asking, what kind of vision is he offering in his interpretation in this essay of nature? And what kind of reader is he inviting us to become? And does this vision still feel alive now? Or what kind of contradictions from a text from 1836 to present day have changed the way that we take in this text, and what stayed timeless? So with that, let's begin with the introduction to Ralph Waldo Emerson's Nature. Again, this is just the introduction, and then Nature, which is the first part of the essay, will be the next video, and so on and so forth. Introduction. Our age is retrospective. It builds the sepulchres of fathers. It writes biographies, histories, and criticism. The foregoing generations beheld God and nature face to face, we through their eyes. Why should not we also enjoy an original relation to the universe? Why should not we have a poetry and philosophy of insight and not of tradition, and a religion by revelation to us and not the history of theirs? Embosomed for a reason in nature, whose floods of life stream around and through us and invite us by the powers they supply to action proportioned to nature, why should we grope among the dry bones of the past, or put the living generation into masquerade out of its faded wardrobe? The sun shines today also. There is more wool and flax in the fields. There are new lands, new men, new thoughts. Let us demand our own works and laws and worship. Undoubtedly, we have no question to ask which are unanswerable. We must trust the perfection of the creation so far as to believe that whatever curiosity the order of things has awakened in our minds, the order of things can satisfy. Every man's condition is a solution in hieroglyphic to those inquiries he would put. He acts it as life before he apprehends it as truth. In like manner, nature is already, in its forms and tendencies, describing its own design. Let us interrogate the great apparition that shines so peacefully around us. Let us inquire, to what end is nature? All science has one aim, namely to find a theory of nature. We have theories of races and of functions, but scarcely yet a remote approach to an idea of creation. We are now so far from the road to truth that religious teachers dispute and hate each other, and speculative men are esteemed unsound and frivolous. But to a sound judgment, the most abstract truth is the most practical. Whenever a true theory appears, it will be its own evidence. Its test is that it will explain all phenomena. Now, many are thought not only unexplained, but inexplicable, as language, sleep, madness, dreams, beasts, sex. Philosophically considered, the universe is composed of nature and the soul. Strictly speaking, therefore, all that is separate from us, all which philosophy distinguishes as the not me, that is, both nature and art, all other men and my own body must be ranked under this name, nature. In enumerating the values of nature and casting up their sum, I shall use the word in both senses, in its common and in its philosophical import. In inquiries so general as our present one, the inaccuracy is not material. No confusion of thought will occur. Nature, in the common sense, refers to essences unchanged by man: space, the air, the river, the leaf. Art is applied to the mixture of his will with the same things, as in a house, a canal, a statue, a picture. But his operations taken together are so insignificant, a little chipping, baking, patching, and washing, that in an impression so grand as that of the world on the human mind, they do not vary the result. That concludes the introduction. And see, so the text is just so full of ideas. They're simple sentences, but the words are very complex. I would love to hear your opinion on your interpretation of that text. One thing that stood out to me in the last paragraph is that he's saying that nature is unchanged by man, and he specifically mentions rivers. And then I think, well, he was not, I guess now I don't agree that that's still the case, because a lot of rivers are covered up with cement, and mountains are moved completely graded over, and I just don't think things were happening on that scale in 1836. I'm not saying, that buildings and cities didn't exist, but I don't think they were happening on the scale that we see them today in modern American society. So I just thought that was kind of interesting, because he's saying that man can't even compare to nature in our small efforts. But I don't know. I would be interested to hear other people's interpretation on just that last part. So much of this text does seem timeless. So let's see. Let's go ahead and ask a few questions, and I will post these as well. What kind of relationship between the self and nature do you think Emerson is setting up in this introduction? I'll ask it again. What kind of relationship between the self and nature do you think Emerson is setting up in the introduction? Does this introduction feel to you more academic, philosophical, spiritual, literary, or personal, or some other feeling? And was there any specific line or phrase or image from that introduction that really stood out to you? And if so, why? Please do feel free to share your answers in the comments. If you liked this video, we will be doing all 8 sections of Emerson's essay, Nature. And I would suggest that then you like and subscribe so that you get notified. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day, morning, night, whatever it is for you.